Do you want to know why wandering is the absolute key to creativity and clarity?
Let's check that out today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. Welcome to Wandering But Not Lost, your online source for finding balance so that you can align, connect, and prosper. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast. This is episode 329. Yeah, and you can find all those show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Jan O'Brien, we've all been there, right? Staring at a problem, overthinking, feeling completely stuck. And what do most of us do? Well, we keep thinking harder, right? We keep sitting at our desk, we keep looking at our phone, we keep doing whatever we are supposed to be doing, right?
And get frustrated.
Yeah, but we don't really do anything about it, right? So we keep thinking harder, and we're just trying to force that breakthrough. But you know, the truth is, the best ideas don't come when you're sitting still. They come when we move. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a little simple thing that we talk about all the time on this podcast, or at least we reference it almost every week. You need to get up and get out. Get up and get out, people. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the science behind it, the reason why momentum fuels creativity, why getting lost can actually lead to major breakthroughs, which we love, and how you can actually use wandering as a daily mindset tool to get unstuck, solve problems, and spark new ideas. So does that sound like a fair thing to be talking about?
Yeah, I like that you're going to talk about getting lost, because I've experienced this with you. It's not lost. It's just, wandering without a map.
Yeah, it's your internal GPS.
That's right, your internal GPS. All right, let's go. Let's dive in. I'm excited about this.
Let's dive in. All right, so first let's start with the science, with the whole thing. There's an incredible study from the Stanford University that found that walking boosts creativity and thinking by 60%.
Wow.
So 60%, right? That means just by getting up and moving, you're literally supercharging your brain's ability to make connections and come up with some new ideas. And Lord knows, when you really put your mind and realize what you're doing when you're moving and how it changes things, it really is a game changer or can be a game changer for you in your daily life, both in business and also in your personal life as well. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just some random theory that, is out there. If you look at history, Jan O'Brien, which I love, some of the world's most creative minds were obsessive walkers. So just listen to this. Steve Jobs, people have different opinions and feelings about Steve Jobs, whatever, but he was famous. Was one of the first people that was really famous for walking meetings, right? So he was like, let's get out from behind our screens, Lord knows, which is the biggest rabbit hole you can get down, and do some walking meetings. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but Jan and I were big proponents of getting up and getting out and walking and talking and doing walking that outside of the work environment, right? Einstein used to walk for hours letting his mind wander because he knew that's when his best ideas came. And even
napping. So napping and walking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The genius nap.
The genius nap.
And even Beethoven and Charles Dickens swore by taking long walks to clear their minds to spark inspiration. So, It's not something that we're just making up here, people. It's been proven. People that you maybe have heard of those people in your past, right? Well, they actually have written how it can or help to boost their creativity and their mindset. So here's the question: Why does it work? Movement increases blood flow to the brain. So when you have more oxygen, you have more clarity, you have better problem-solving skills, all of that kind of stuff, just by actually moving. Do you ever notice when you are sitting, like working, and this happens all the time, it happens to me all the time, where you get into a mode where you're working, especially if you're on your computer and you're just there, and all of a sudden an hour has passed, an hour and a half has passed, and you can feel yourself kind of going into a little bit of that malaise, right? But when you get up just to do something just a little, maybe even just to get up to go to the bathroom, for crying out loud, it automatically kind of resets and refocuses a little bit. So, that movement, that whole oxygen thing and the movement around thing absolutely works. So walking in nature and we talk about this all the time as well, reduces your stress. It just does. Studies have shown that walking in green spaces lowers cortisol. So that's your stress hormone. It helps you feel calmer and it helps you feel more focused. Funny thing about being out in nature, I do most of my short videos outside. It does two things for me. One, it gets me up and out. So even if I don't have an opportunity to do my 30-minute or 40-minute walk for the day, I'm walking, right? Because I'm going to a park. I'm doing something outside. I noticed the other day when I was filming a video that the birds were crazy chirping.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't really notice it so much while I was sitting there until I was actually editing the video later. I'm like, holy crap, the nature was all around me and it was affecting me and I didn't even really know it was affecting me. So getting out in nature does a whole bunch of stuff to lower your stress and to help your creativity.
Those birds wanted to be in that video because they took, I loved it.
I think they did. You're absolutely right. It really shifts us into more of a flow state. You never notice how, you feel when you're out on a walk, your mind just clicks, into a different gear. Always. It does for myself. And I know it does for you too, Jan, because we talk about it all the time. Because Jan and I do a lot of, when we're together, which unfortunately is not as often as we would both like it to be. But when we always make a point of getting up and going out and doing something. It's just part of our thing, which has been part of our success. I really believe that. Anyway, it's all because you're breaking free from routine. It's all about breaking the routine, because when you do that, it allows your brain to explore new ideas naturally. So, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So the next time you feel stuck, instead of thinking harder, just move around. Just move instead, because that's what it's all about. Anything to add to that, Jan O'Brien?
No, I like it. That thing about the flow makes me think of athletes. We'll talk about it, and they're just in the flow, like it's like something takes over, and probably people who are creatives do this, like painters and all of this, and it happens to all of us. But I think it comes from that movement and that changing your state. You change your state of being, and all of a sudden everything's flowing. Right. Like you're solving the problem or whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can
creative, getting the ideas.
When you really are paying attention to it and being mindful of your wandering experience, you can feel that shift when it happens, and it is a little bit of a rush when you really pay attention to it. So let's talk about wandering while we're on that subject, which I guess is really the subject of the whole thing here, because there's a big difference between wandering with intention and feeling lost, right, or stuck. There really is. When most people hear the word wandering, they think it means like aimless walking with no direction, just kind of meandering around. But actually, wandering is one of the most powerful tools for mental clarity. And let me ask you this, Jan O'Brien. Have you ever been completely stuck on something and then stepped away, went back, and then suddenly, boom, right? The answer is there, which we just were kind of talking about. Absolutely. But it happens all the time, right?
But I had to change state, change location, let it go, to be honest.
Yep.
And let go of the thought, and then it would start to flow again. Yeah, totally.
And that's perfect, because really what you just said, Jan, is really the power of wandering. It really is. And, once again, Jan and I used to do mindful wandering and do this kind of walking meetings back when we were working together in the corporate world. I already mentioned that we do it whenever we get together anyway, right? And then there is the story of when we first created WML coaching. We were freaking on a hike when we were doing that. I mean, there's just so many examples of how we have taken this whole concept and really apply it and overlay it onto almost everything we do. It's something that we talk about practically on a daily basis about, getting up and getting out. And I'm so proud of Jan O'Brien, because what she has done, maybe not so much in the last couple of weeks since she's having issues with her whatever's going on, right?
Tested.
Hard to do deep breathing when your lungs do not want you to deep breathe. Exactly. But Jan O'Brien has actually mastered the morning routine, which, we have laughed about for years now, right? Because it's easy to get off of it, but you have been very consistent about your morning routine. And part of your routine in the morning is getting up and getting out and doing a little bit of walking. So I applaud you, Jan O'Brien, for,
Makes a difference, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So
if there's times where I don't do it because maybe I'm not feeling it. So it's basically what we were talking about. It's like even doing something is better than nothing. Even just doing 5 minutes is going to be better than not doing anything, honestly, for this whole thing we're talking about, for your mindset and your clarity.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you can have this kind of this epiphany or something when you're out and doing your thing. And maybe it's when you're hiking, maybe it's when you're doing a walk, maybe it's when you're on a road trip and your mind is kind of free to wander anyway, right? Or not even on a road trip. Maybe you're just out doing your doing your chores and just being outside. A lot of times, when your mind just has that little time to be alone and kind of think, it can stimulate some creativity and clarity. And then, of course, we've already talked a lot about the 10-minute walk. Just go out there and walk around the block. It can really help shift your mindset. I have a friend who maybe a little HD, has a little
ADHD.
A situation where he's a little bit hyper. And his mom, when he was growing up, used to tell him, David, go run around the house. And I love that, because what that really did, I mean, he didn't literally go run around the house, but he did go out and run around a little bit. And what that did is reset him, right? Because it just let's refocus you from what you're doing right now onto something else. So the 10-minute walk sounds like a very simple thing to do, but it can be a huge, huge difference. So anyway, the key really is when you move, you gain perspective because you're getting out of your routine. All right. So let's talk about how you can actually apply this in your daily life, in both, like personal and in business. How can you make wandering part of your daily routine to gain clarity, reduce your stress, and spark creativity? So here's some simple strategies. 3 simple strategies. One is the 10-minute reset walk. So if you're feeling stuck, frustrated, overwhelmed, walk it out. Really, just walk it out, or literally just walk away. Right? Because sometimes you just need to get out of a situation.
Yes.
And if you do that, it's going to, once again, reset you. Set a 10-minute timer. You just have to do 10 minutes. Set a 10-minute timer. Don't take your phone. Have no distractions, because your phone, as wonderful as it is, and we talk about the power that it can bring you, it can be the worst time suck. And it can really, really hinder creativity. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jen O'Brien?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So the whole point of the 10-minute walk is to get out there and release yourself from all of these kind of things that tie you down all the time, and freaking just move. That's all you really have to do. You'll be shocked at how quickly your brain starts working for you instead of against you. So here's the challenge. Try this today. The next time you hit a mental roadblock, and you hit them throughout your days, take a 10-minute walk and see what happens. I guarantee you it will make a difference. So number 2, change your environment for breakthroughs. If you've been sitting in the same space for all day, I talked about this just a little bit ago, staring at the same screen, your brain gets stuck in a loop. You get stuck in that loop of what you're doing. You're in the same environment. Everything is just kind of closing in around you. So the solution is really just change your environment. Wow. Maybe if you have the opportunity, maybe you could work from a coffee shop instead of at your desk, right? Or just move your space. Let's say you're working from home. Move your workspace from where you typically do your work to some other location. Or if you're in an office, maybe you go sit in the conference room for a while. It's anything that kind of gets you out of that routine that you're already in. So if you can do that, give it a whirl and see what happens. Just simply step outside, right? You don't have to go on some big old long walk. You just step outside. Or if you have an opportunity to take a little time to do a walk in a different route than you normally walk in. This is funny because I am a walker, but I find myself in a routine where I know how long it takes me to get from point A to point B, and I kind of do the same walk all the time. Mm-hmm. The last 6 to 8 months, I've really been shaking it up and walking in a different place, and it has literally been kind of a game changer for me. Because not only does the walking because sometimes it'd be like, oh, I don't really feel like doing that route. That again, it mixes it up and it makes it a little bit more engaging for you because you're seeing and looking at things that are different than you normally see. And then once again, we've already talked about it, but try a walking meeting. Take your crew outside and give a little walk instead of just sitting inside in a conference room or in your office. So it makes a big, huge difference. Here's a fun fact for you, Jen O'Brien. You might know this, but J.K. Rowling, she came up with the Harry Potter series while riding a train.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she was just sitting there watching the scenery go by when the ideas kind of struck her. And she wasn't forcing it. She was letting her mind wander, right? And
Very cool.
I would suffice to say that that was a pretty good breakthrough for her, for crying out loud, and her 7 books and, all the things that have happened around her since then. But that's the whole thing. She wasn't sitting at a desk trying to force her hand to scribe on a piece of paper, right? She was looking at the world traveling around her. And if you think about it, what a train.
Well, trains were a big piece of that series, weren't they? When you think about
exactly. Exactly, it was. So if you feel stuck, don't force an answer. Change your surroundings, because I think we all too often try to do that, to try to make yourself have that breakthrough, to try to make yourself, accomplish the next step. But if you change your surroundings, the chances are that's going to come to you much more naturally. So, number 3, here's one of my favorites. Just get lost on purpose.
There it is.
Just get lost on purpose, right? Pick a new neighborhood that walk in, or a new trail, or a new park that you haven't been to before, because it's going to be, the curiosity is going to start sparking in you, and it's going to make you more creative, altogether. Don't use GPS. This is Jan and I's favorite thing, because sometimes when we're together, Jan always used to make fun of, because Jan's a big GPS, or I don't know if you still are, but you used to be big on the GPS.
Oh yeah.
To do.
I had a problem when you're going to tell this story. I had a problem with but you taught me something. So tell the story about, I was ready to go put where we needed to go and you're like, no, I'm going to go figure it out. And I'm like, okay, this is fun.
Because here's the thing,
we were driving around, right? And it's like it's the wrong turn somewhere. Yeah,
obviously, if you're at some place where you just are completely have know where you are, let's say you're on vacation and you just don't know, you might not want to get lost there. Often that might not be the best.
You could do it if you wanted to, but the idea of this is to just be curious and see where it takes you.
And it does take you to some pretty great spots that you probably would never have gone to before.
Exactly.
Because the GPS is always going to take you on the route that's going to be the fastest way. And I'm going to tell you, the road less traveled and the fastest way is not always the best way. And that's really all there is to it. My wife and I were on a trip. We went on a road trip last weekend where there was this route that took you from like the Temecula area. If you're familiar with Southern California, in the Temecula area over to Palm Desert, the Palm Springs area over the hill. And where we live in Anaheim Hills, going that route seems like it's a lot farther than just taking the 91 to the Interstate 10, which takes you right out to Palm Springs. I bet you that going that less traveled route maybe 15 or 20 minutes longer than going the other way. And the other way, you always have to worry about, is there going to be traffic on the freeway? Is there going to be an accident? All that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of funny that it might be a lot, the number of miles might be more, but the actual time it takes to get there, not that different, and way more beautiful, way more of an opportunity to get your mind freed up and wandering around, and more creative because you're just around all this beauty. So anyway, it's interesting how you can find paths that you wouldn't have found if you just go. And we do not use GPS for that. Which I rarely ever do.
I know you don't. You maybe look ahead of time, and something happened to me over the weekend. I was out looking at. No, it was Thursday or something, showing homes, and I decided to not. I actually did this. I didn't even tell you this. I was over deep in the southwest part of Las Vegas, and I'm like, I'm not going to put my GPS on to get me back to the fastest way to go home. Right. I just did what you're talking about, and it took me to a route. I knew where I needed to go and so forth, but I ended up coming to a place where I had to do a turnaround because I came to a 4-way stop where people were lining up to get their kids, which was kind of in a remote area, and somebody was blocking, but I didn't allow it to bother me. And I just was like, you know what? And so I turned around and then I went a whole nother way. And, and then it's like, oh, I didn't know that was there. That was when I was calling and telling you the Tractor Supply is here. And I had just seen it going out there, and I didn't even know we had a Tractor Supply. And I thought it was the coolest thing because I've only seen Tractor Supplies in the East Coast. But apparently Matt looked it up while I was calling him and telling him, I'm just out here wandering and there's a Tractor Supply. I think we should go do a video because I think it's funny that there's a Tractor Supply in the desert.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or based on what they have. But anyway, it was really a good experience, to be honest. So
yeah, and what it does when you force yourself to get, air quotes, lost, you put yourself into a new environment. Your brain is forced to process new information, which is great. It's like your brain you're growing your brain. You become more aware, you become more present, and you become more open to fresh ideas.
Yes.
So that's what it's all about. So, when you wander, you're not always lost, right? So that's kind of the key to our wandering but not lost. That
kind of this episode sums up the wandering but not lost theme.
Yeah, it's only taken us 10 years to get here, but there we are. So when you need to let go of the need to control every freaking step, that is when your creativity thrives. So I cannot express, deeply enough that getting up and getting out is so important for your psyche and to help your creativity and help you with getting unstuck from your problems and your issues and whatever it is. And, it helps with overwhelm. It helps with overthinking. It helps with everything. There's really very few things that can't be cured by just changing your environment a little bit, and especially getting up and getting out. So anyway, where's your favorite place to wander?
I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's near closest travel way would be Sedona. And I've been it's been calling to me. It's too cold to go there right now, but I want to go to Sedona, and I would love to get back to those parks, like Sequoia and Yosemite, to be honest.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do a lot of wandering lately, just because some stuff that's going on. But I'll tell you, I took a little trip down memory lane via the 20 million photos I have, and boy, I tell you, I wasn't out wandering, but my brain was wandering, and it was sure firing on all cylinders, looking at all those pictures and thinking about all those trails and all the stuff that we were able to do earlier on. That even that kind of wandering, which got me out of what I was doing into this other space, really helped to kind of motivate me when I was doing that. So it's just awesome. So, hey, you out there, tell us how you get out of your space and where you like to go, where your favorite little mecca is. Where do you like to wander? Leave us a comment on that, and we would, because we'd love to hear about it, because I'm going to tell you, once again, getting up, getting out solves the problems of the world.
Let's go.
Just think about that. Now, all the show notes for today's episode over at wbnopodcast.com. This is episode 329. And anything else, Jen? Any other wandering tips?
No, I'm very inspired to just go out. We're going to stop this podcast. I'm going to go step outside.
Yeah, I'm going to go film my video outside. So there you go. Right. So anyway, once again, over to wbnopodcast.com. There's all the show notes. Get up, get out, everyone. And when you do that exploring, your mind will elevate and expand. We'll see you next week.